wide definition. And I refer back to a discussion we had, it's now a couple of months ago, where we spoke about some of the criminality in terms of the fishing rights that's happening further down on our southern coast. And the point was made that that area doesn't necessarily fall in the ambit of the Navy. And of course, now with this fairly broad wording of what the duties are in the Operation Copper, I'm wondering if it's the best use of our resources to limit the exposure to the same area that we are. So the slight and subtle change in wording has quite a massive impact on what we are to expect from the Defence Force in terms of their actions within the instructions received in the letter. Thank you, Chair.
No, it's fine. You are just emphasizing the point. I think the Minister has dealt with it, that the Minister captured both responsibilities, the anti-piracy and the related criminality. It's just that the letter that was sent to Parliament only reflects one aspect, that is the anti-piracy aspect. I think we're then concluding that because that's the only document we have access to, would happy that it be aligned to the minute, especially when it comes to the purpose of deployment, so that there is no confusion as to why we are sending the soldiers on a mission. I think that has been accepted. Minister, I think, am I closing on the right note? You may want to say one or two things.
Chairperson, I do agree. I think that what I would suggest is that I get in touch with the Office of the President so that we realign the contents of the letter with the presidential minute. Thank you, Chair.
No, we take your word, Minister. We take your word. We are together. Next day, we'll be coming back with the same thing. I think you've clarified the point is recorded. And let's not fight on this or even ask, yeah, as if we are asking you to withdraw it. No. I think in my view.
I think, no, yes. It's fine, Chairperson. What is important for us is that on time, the Parliament should receive information when there is deployment outside of the Republic. And maybe in trying to achieve that goal of ensuring that you are informed timeously through the Speaker of Parliament, then of course mistakes get committed. But we will definitely, we will look into this matter, Chair, and we will deal with it. We can't run away from, I think the issue which was raised by Honorable Marais is a very important matter, because at face value, when you look at the whole thing, when it all started, it had to do with issues of piracy in that area. But if you look at the nature of the problem now, and I think Mr. Marais is correct to say that we need to look at whether, in fact, we're talking here criminality as defined, or we're talking something else. But of course, I do want to say that once you start with terrorism, that's advice then which you will get from those who are technically in uniform. But not only that, the moment you say you define the nature of the problem in that part of the country of the region as terrorism, we equally have to be aware that what that means is that it goes sometimes then the belief is that it should go way beyond the region. For now, we were talking about regional kind of initiatives to assist Mozambique. It means go beyond that. It must go to the African Union. It must go to the UN full time, and for them to then assist to make a determination of the nature of the intervention which is required in the area. So that is why we tend to find it very difficult to say outright that we think it is the following. We always, I think, hide behind criminality and say criminality, because until the owners, the people who are affected deeply by the problem, actually define the nature of the problem and agree that the nature of the problem is what we think it is, then that's when all of us can then adopt that and then move in that direction.
Okay. Minister,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Suffices for today or tonight. I've promised the committee members that in a week or two, we will have a physical meeting in wherever you want to host us, where we transact on the matters that cannot be transacted in an open meeting. I think we've agreed on that. The team is going to work on it. Minister, thank you very much. General, thank you very much for your presence tonight, and you may take leave.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairpersons, co-chairs, and thank you, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, General.
Okay. Colleagues, the second item is a legal opinion. Let's take the legal opinion. Even in the absence of Olomisa, the matter was reported to us. I've circulated his letters. I hope you have all read them. But somehow they got leaked to the press ahead of me communicating the letters to you. But that is out of my control. I couldn't do anything about it. So we'll just hold it at that. Let me allow the legal people to take us through, but we'll determine our own process. The name is, I'll tell you now, is Miss Isaac. Miss Isaac, good morning, ma'am, and over to you. Thank you very much. I know I gave you a short notice to prepare the opinion. Over to you.
Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. You have lost count of time. It's not morning.
Oh, my apologies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome, Miss Isaac. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Is the committee able to hear me?
Yes, very well, and we can see you too.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening, Chairperson, members of the committee, and all present. I'm not sure whether Peter intends to share the opinion on the screen. So, Chairperson, we were requested by the committee to provide an opinion on the competency of the Joint Standing Committee on Defense to deal with allegations made against the Minister of Defense and military veterans. As you indicated, this was provided on an urgent basis, and therefore we've kept our opinion specifically to the issues that you requested us to comment on, which is the powers of the committee and a possible process that could be followed in this matter. We do not delve into any parts of the allegations before the committee. As way of background, the committee received various letters from one of its members regarding the minister, and we were asked to look at the competency and powers of the committee to deal with the above allegations made against the minister. So in terms of this committee's powers, we will have to start with the Constitution. The Constitution empowers this committee and mandates the committee. Peter, if we can go to paragraph 6. So in terms of section 228 of the Interim Constitution, this requires that the minister responsible for defense is accountable to Parliament for the National Defense Force. Section 228(3) of the interim constitution establishes this committee, and section 228(3)(d) states as follows: the committee shall be competent to investigate and make recommendations regarding the budget, functioning, organization, armaments, policy, morale, and state of preparedness of the South African Defence Force, and to perform such other functions relating to parliamentary supervision of the force as may be prescribed by law. Paragraph 8 just confirms that these provisions of the interim constitution are still in operation as set out in the current constitution. This being a joint committee, this committee falls under the joint rules of parliament, and this committee is established again in terms of Joint Rule 120A. And with regard to joint committees, the joint rules set out the powers of the committee. Rule 32(1) sets out these particular functions of the committee. It says, for the purpose of performing its functions, a joint committee may, subject to the Constitution, legislation, and other provisions of the joint rules and resolutions of the House, A, summons any person to appear before it to give evidence on oath or affirmation and to produce documents. B, receive petitions, representations, or submissions from interested persons or institutions. C, conduct public hearings. D, permit oral evidence, including evidence on petitions, representations, and submissions. And if we just go further down, the next relevant rule is H, which is exercise any other powers assigned to it by the Constitution, legislation, and other provisions of the joint rules or resolutions adopted by the House. Further, the Powers and Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act provides joint committees with the following powers. Firstly, it may summons a person to appear before it to give evidence on oath or affirmation, or to produce a document, and B, may require any person or institution to report to it. Therefore, we look at analyzing the law now, and as I set out, the Constitution mandates this committee with very specific oversight powers over the South African National Defence Force. Secondly, in paragraph 14, I point out that the rules of Parliament gives the committee specific mechanisms as to how to carry out that mandate. And this is also echoed in the Powers and Privileges Act, which allows the committee specific powers. Therefore, we conclude that the committee has the competency to investigate any matter that involves the budget, functioning, organization, armaments, policy, morale, and state of preparedness of the South African National Defence Force. Further, the committee has various mechanisms available to it to conduct such an investigation, including summoning of witnesses and documents, asking a person or institution to report to it, your oral evidence, and have public hearings. So, Chairperson, in terms of the powers of the committee, it's clearly established both the Constitution, the rules, and the Powers and Privileges Act gives the committee a specific mandate which enables it to investigate matters as set out in the Constitution. With regard to the process, Chairperson, the rules of natural justice would require that each party be given an opportunity to be heard. From the information provided to us in paragraph 16, I pointed it is not clear whether the minister has been given an opportunity to answer to the allegations put forward to the committee. So therefore, we are of the view that the minister does have a right to be heard. As it currently stands, the committee has various allegations before it, but the minister has not been given an opportunity to answer those allegations. So before the committee even thinks about the next step as to the process as to whether to investigate the veracity of these allegations, it is our view that the committee must first give the minister an opportunity to respond to the allegations. Once it is in receipt of this response, then it will be able to assess both the allegations against the minister's response and determine whether any further steps may be taken if it is necessary from its assessment of the information provided to it. So, Chairperson, just to conclude, to state again, the committee is competent to investigate various allegations made against the minister, and it does have specific mechanisms provided for it in the rules to do so. However, we advise that the committee afford the minister an opportunity to respond to the allegations. We suggest that the committee write to the minister setting out the allegation and requesting for her to respond within a reasonable period of time. Upon receipt of the allegations, we further suggest the committee may then assess both the allegations and the minister's response to determine if it should proceed with any further steps within its mandate. Thank you, Chairperson. That is our opinion.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, colleagues. Here with the legal opinion. I'm going to circulate it after this meeting. I received it this morning, but let me say today, because I was able to read it this afternoon. We'll then circulate it for you to look at. You may then ask a question, but before you ask questions, let me just tell you my difficulty with the allegations. I've actually looked at them. You see, we as it stands, Ms. Isaacs, we are dealing with witness anonymity, an anonymous witness, which makes it difficult to establish the veracity of or to test the allegations themselves. To me, that presents the first hurdle, but to indicate how we can overcome it. Because I know that in order for any person, any accused, to present his or her case effectively, he or she must have access to the statement of his or her accuser, so that he or she can challenge it effectively. The right to present your case effectively, in my view, is fundamental to your right to fair trial. Now, when you don't have the accuser coming forward and presenting himself or herself for cross-examination, if there has to be cross-examination, and it will leave us with unsubstantiated allegations, which would actually make it difficult to draw a line between a genuine allegation and a malicious allegation. What can we do in that situation? I know what Honorable Monisa is saying. Honorable Monisa is inviting the committee to test the truth and then invite the minister to come and explain herself, and that depending on the evidence so presented, the committee will then make a recommendation that further investigation, forensic investigation and lifestyle audit is warranted. Now, see, we move on the basis of unsubstantiated evidence and invite the minister to explain herself. That's my only difficulty with this. That's number one. And number two, that when an allegation, it's about the commission, it's about the allegation, it borders on criminality. I'm just making this as a wild thing, okay? You see, criminality is one thing, and there are law enforcement agencies that appointed to deal with that. Let me just make an example. I mean, if the example is that the allegation about kickbacks, that there's an allegation that she received kickbacks from a service provider that does business with the Defense Force, and that her conduct is improper. You see, it's do we get involved in that aspect as well? Remember, it's something that is outside the budget as we oversee it. It's on the side. Allegation is that you receive kickbacks. Unless there's a link between that to some preferential treatment. But we don't have the evidence that as a result of a kickback, the department was induced to grant the said service provider preferential treatment. And that's the business she does with the SANDF or the department is as a result thereof. I mean, you don't have that. It's not very much apparent, So that's the difficulty I had. You may want to deal with that before I open it up to other colleagues. I understand on the second letter. The second letter, it says there is alleging misuse of funds. That's the second letter. So and I want us to separate the two matters. One where crime is alleged, and the other where it relates to the mismanagement of resources, as it were. And we're not saying that is for truth, but these are the allegations in the letters, and they've also been in the media as well. And over to you, ma'am, Ms. Isaac.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just with regard to the issue of whether this matter could involve criminal issues and whether this would be the correct forum to consider it, I think we should start with what is the mandate of this committee, which is to oversee the South African National Defence Force, and those issues stretch into issues of budgets and policy issues. So with regard to whether this one may overlap, it may be that certain allegations may amount to criminal action, but it is not. This committee is not conducting a criminal investigation. Its mandate is to conduct oversight. If the committee becomes aware there's certain matters that may be of a criminal nature, then it is within its right to refer it to the appropriate agency. However, I would caution against just overlooking the allegations because it's maybe of a criminal nature. The committee should maybe, hear out the allegations. There may be a response that may, answer to why these are false or not, or there may be evidence that refutes the allegations. But I would advise the committee that it would be better for them to maybe hear the allegations, consider what is the response, and before it it decides whether to proceed or not to proceed, as opposed to deciding right now that it is of a criminal nature and it wouldn't be appropriate in this committee. Further, with regard to the allegations being made by a person who is unknown, I think we will have to test the actual allegations. If there is actual evidence within those letters that that link it to specific issues that are factually based, then it's not for the committee just to disregard that. There may be a person who is a whistleblower who is afraid to come forward at this stage, but if the allegations have factual veracity and there's basis to probe them, then I would not be dismissive of them just merely because the person has not come forward as yet. As I said, the way of dealing with this is to afford the minister a right to be heard. So the minister may be able to just give us information that refutes all these allegations, and until we allow it to be tested, it will just be that allegations, and she herself will not be given that opportunity to say, no, this is totally false. So as it stands, these allegations up in the air, no one has come forward to even come and contest it, and she has a right to contest that because it's already in the public domain. Thank you, Chairperson.
I see the hand of Mr. Murray.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Isaacs. Excellent advice that you've given us, and I'm looking forward to study that advice of yours more thoroughly. I'm always very cautious to just jump on a bandwagon if someone shouts fire, fire. And one must make sure that it is to a certain extent substantiated or supported. And as I know the legal fraternity, there must be either strong circumstantial evidence, or at least some prima facie evidence that indicates to probable or possible, transgressions. And looking at the letters, if it was not for the lot of details in both the two letters, plus the documentary proof, it is, yes, at this stage, it's copies of documents that we have seen and that we have received. It is not affidavits, it's not certified copies of the original or the originals. At least at this stage, it seems like there are prima facie evidence of some possible wrongdoing. As Ms. Isaacs has said, maybe the minister can, by offering the opportunity, give very good explanations, and we can then, interrogate that, and we can hear, and we can talk to her, and we can ask her certain questions. But I think I would support Ms. Isaacs in that we must give her the opportunity. I think it's clear from what she has said, and that's also my understanding, is that it is our responsibility. We have got oversight, parliamentary oversight, over the executive, which is the minister, and obviously the department and the SANDF. So clearly we cannot leave this. We have to do this. We have to start a process, and then depending on the information forthcoming to us, we must then take it further. What we must possibly decide on is, in terms of how we will deal with this, because I think it's very important that that when we deal with it, it has to be confidential, because we cannot have a situation where someone is given the opportunity to respond, but the moment that she responds, it becomes a matter for public, justice, and so we have to decide on the process going forward. But it is clear, in my opinion, that if we are not addressing this and dealing with this, and I've listened much to the Zondo Commission, and hear things there and what has been said and what has been forthcoming. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is state capture, but there are similarities of what we have heard there. So clearly, with the criticism of the Zondo Commission to Parliament, of not doing its proper oversight and our functions. My opinion is that we will have to start the process, give her the opportunity to respond to the allegations, provide the documentation that we have received, and then we can take it from there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. Any other hand?
Chairperson?
Yes, Ms. Modisa.
Thank you, Chair. Let me also appreciate the legal opinion that has been given by Ms. Isaacs. I think it has really provided us with clarity, and it will assist in how we move forward with this issue of the allegations against the minister. I also want to agree and support the fact that, or the view that let us give the minister an opportunity to appear before the committee so that she explains herself. And therefore the meeting thereafter can then be able to decide on whether we refer the matter to the appropriate agencies that will deal with the criminal allegations, because as it has been explained, we do not have the jurisdiction to conduct investigations against criminal allegations or thereof. Therefore, I suggest that the meetings should agree on scheduling a meeting where the minister would appear before the committee and answer to the allegations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Jose.
Chair, I want to agree with the latter speaker, but as you've already mentioned, for me, it becomes a bit difficult because we know of a single side of the story, of which even if one wanted to dig deeper into the details of what we have now before calling the minister, one would not know who to ask and who to get clarity from. As much as I agree that we must call the minister, but are we as a committee satisfied ourselves with the side of the story that we have received? Who exactly is going to be giving us questions, to be giving us answers to the questions that might arise from what has been given to us? Yes, the investigation or our own investigation is important. But before taking a decision, I don't know how we're going to approach this. Before us arriving at a point where we refer the matter after calling the minister, in my view, we would have not done justice to the process, as we will only be knowing the facts of the single side that will be coming from the minister. Right now, we'll be depending on what is written. We've not interrogated that, and with the minister, we'll be interrogating the minister. Maybe I need clarity on that one to say, will we be referring a matter, or is it going to be possible for us to reach a conclusion, whether to refer a matter or what, after hearing a single side or interrogating a single side of the minister based on what we have received?
Yeah, okay. No, thanks, colleagues. I've listened to all of you. Let me just, you've all read this letter. You know, it says the service provider. The first letter, it talks about the service provider. And then the second letter is also about the service provider right through, even when there's no reference to the service provider. I want to read into that part, the service provider. In other words, is the same person who in the first letter is mentioned as the service provider. And even in the second letter, it's like it's the continuation. This letter is more evidence from the same person. Is that your conclusion as well?
Most possibly, sir. Most probably, and most possibly. At this stage, we don't know all the answers. We just know that there are certain things in front of us and there are some documentary support and proof of that. Maybe if we go back to General Holomisa and say, you know, that first letter, do you have any prima facie evidence for that? Maybe it's part of what he has given us, you know, afterwards. And, you know, and then depending on that, we must take it forward, because this is still an allegation. And obviously, you know, we must give the opportunity to the minister to respond to that. And then based on that feedback, as Ms. Isaacs has said, then we must obviously consider what the next step must be, whether to refer it, whether to have hearings, or whether to make another decision. It's up to us.
It's fine. I have no problem. I think I'm accepting that the minister will be granted an opportunity to state her side of the story. In fact, the minister is looking forward to that because the matter is in the public and she's being tried in the court of public opinion. How it got to the media and what was the motive, I just cannot, it's for everyone's guess. It's in the public opinion now. It's being tried, she's being tried in the public opinion. This thing is hanging over her head, and she would love to be granted an opportunity to come and present her side. There's no two ways about it. There's no two ways. It's just a process, because a decision we take, we are setting a precedent for ourselves. So we must be sure that procedurally there's fairness. And I don't want to assume, maybe I must go back to Holomisa and check if this person, because from the evidence that it's stated in the thing, you know, it gives dates, it gives amounts, it gives, you know, locations where certain transactions took place. So, so it means that she can't, you know, hide her or his identity. You know, maybe he or she is prepared to come forward and back this thing up. I would start by going back to Holomisa, General Holomisa, and ask and check if she would not be prepared to depose to an affidavit, you know, all these allegations that are put forward, and for onward transfer to the minister, who will then be invited to also respond in writing to the allegations, you know. Then upon evaluating both the allegations and the minister's response, the committee will then make a decision as to what next we must then do. That's the approach I'm suggesting. So we get her to depose to an affidavit. We send the affidavit to the minister and ask the minister to also respond in writing. The committee meets, look at this, and then decide on the next course of action. Is that acceptable?
Chairperson, maybe Ms. Isaacs, I don't know if she is still in the meeting, but she is still. I'm not quite sure that it will only depend on an affidavit from her, because as we have seen, there are some prima facie evidence in terms of the documentation. So I would guess we can ask her, and it will certainly help our process if she gives an affidavit. But obviously, I mean, we will have to protect her in terms of the witness protection legislation. So you know, we cannot make public who the person is if she wants to be protected in terms of legislation. So Ms. Isaacs' opinion will will be appreciated. But my personal view is we must anyway, in terms of what we have got, submit this to the minister and ask her to officially respond to us based on the current allegations. Whether, maybe, it's not even, she will give us the evidence that we don't even need an affidavit. But surely, should we go forward, an affidavit will most certainly help a case, if there is a case against the minister. And if there's no affidavit or no further confirmation of these allegations, then obviously it will strengthen the minister's position and her case.
Yes, no, I agree. I don't want to assume that she wants to remain anonymous or to be treated, to be protected as a whistleblower. Let's establish that. If that is the case, we'll then, get the minister's written response, and then we'll take it up from there. But I'm saying it will assist if we start to establish a relationship, a contact, not a relationship, a contact with her, so that should we need her to come and, clarify certain matters, at least we would have established a contact and would know who we're talking to. It's a process, and it doesn't get into on the way of the requirement that the minister must, we must hear her side. I mean, she has a right to be heard, but it's just to ensure that our own process is well. But if this person comes back and say, no, look, I'm not prepared to depose to an affidavit, I'm not prepared to come before the committee, I want my identity to be, I don't want my details disclosed or identity revealed, we'll leave it at that. At least we'll move forward with that at the back of our mind. All right. So I don't want to assume anything. I want us to follow that procedure, and so that we don't make a mistake. As I said, we are setting a precedent. I think I agree with the legal opinion. There is nothing with it, but it's just that we ensure that there is fairness in the process as we move forward. So we would want to leave it at that for now. And I'll go back to General. I want us to deal with this thing next week on Thursday, depending on whether we get the affidavit from this person, and if she doesn't want to come forward, we'll still deal with the matter. So that will be next week, Thursday. So, but I would have loved to have her coming up, backing it up with more information if there is more information in the form of an affidavit, so that the minister is able to freely respond to it. But the minister is ready to do so even now. So so we'll do that next week, Thursday. Is there anyone who's vehemently proposed to the proposition? Martha Bartlett?
No, Chair, I think you covered what I wanted to say, and I agree with the position that you are saying.
Thank you.
I say I'm covered by the input that you made, Chair.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bartlett. Mr. Kenny Mozambique?
Thanks, Chair. But I was covered, Chairperson, because sometimes allegations, they can be truth and they can be false. So somebody can bring we need affidavit. But if somebody doesn't want to appear before us, I don't see that that allegation, we can take it very serious. I thank you.
Okay. Now we'll make a call when we meet on Thursday on that. But if he remains, he wants to be granted a whistleblower protection, we'll just ensure that we don't, we observe that, because there are laws that govern that aspect. Is any objection to what we are concluding on, colleagues?
No, Chair, no objection.
We are,
No, sir.
we are agreeing, Chair.
Okay. I'll move this forward. Right, colleagues, now we can move to the next item. There are two items, the APP and the strat plan. I have to move to another meeting, and I was talking to my colleague. He is not well. He's not well. Thabo, are you okay? Can you stand in?
Thank you, Chair. My network is not that consistent. If you may ask Comrade Bukas or can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you very well. Ms. Bukas?
Chairperson.
Honorable Chair.
Right. No. Both in first. Modise?
Yes, everybody is now muted, and now everybody.
No, there's a problem with the system. I even knew as well. All right, Modisa, may you step in, please? We have two items to do. Is a strat plan and the annual plan, and the minutes if we still have time. I have to move to.
Chairperson, just before you leave,
yes.
I know that our colleague, my colleague, has got bereavement in his family as well. And I know that Maliheke is still attending the meeting, so it is much appreciated. But I think it's also, we must just extend our condolences to him as well with the loss in the family as well. So I think it's much appreciated. But just before you leave, I thought I must just raise that.
No, thank you so much. Our deepest condolences to you and your family, Babshelembe. And may the family be comforted.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
No, thanks. Ms. Isaac, thank you very much. I'll release you. Thank you very much for the opinion, and we'll expect your guidance as we move forward. All right?
Thank you, Chair. I will be available to assist the committee.
Thank you so much. All right. Modise, may you please take over?
Thanks, Chair. You had said the next two items that are left, it's which one and followed by which one, Chair?
A committee strat plan and a committee annual plan and the minutes. If we still have time.
Okay, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson. Colleagues, we may now then proceed to the next item of the strat plan.
Thank you, Ms. Modise. The next item is actually item 3, and that is actually the consideration and adoption of our second term program. So with your permission, can I load that?
Yes, proceed.
Ma'am, this is the suggestion that we have, the draft program. I think members will be aware that the oversight visit, I think it was for the 7th of May, that has been removed. So there's the program. So that's the first one for today. And then next week and Thursday, it was supposed to be the NCACC as well as the Department of Military Veterans. But what the chairperson has said now, most probably next week, we'll also have to look at the matter raised by General Olomisa. So we'll have to amend it or move some of those issues further. Then, ma'am, on the Thursday the 20th, there is the Chief Human Resources. And that's an issue that we raised at our strategic planning session in Pretoria, there, the Sheraton Hotel, said that we need to look at gender parity and youth development. So that is an issue that we plan to discuss on the 20th of May. On the 27th, was supposed to be a briefing by two of our entities. Firstly, the military ombud with regards to investigations of cases alleging misconduct by soldiers report in their last financial year. Ma'am, you would remember, for instance, during Ops Notella, there were cases of misconduct of soldiers, and I think it relates to that one. The next one, man, is Defence Force Service Commission, and just progress made with recommendations to improve the condition of service of soldiers. So that falls quite in the middle of the mandate of the Joint Standing Committee in Defence, and they will just come and then give us feedback. And in the last meeting for this term, ma'am, what we scheduled there was a briefing by the department at the RAM program at one military hospital. That is the repair and maintenance program at one military hospital and related matters. Ma'am, you will recall that we visited them last year in November, and we were quite frustrated at the slow progress that has been made to revamp the hospital there, and that's an issue that we need to follow up. So, ma'am, that is the proposal for the second term, but most probably we'll have to consider it and just make some adjustments as we go along, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, here is the program. I think we can input on it. On my side, I feel that it is in order, except for those amendments that may need to be done for the next week's meeting with the minister. But for me, it's in order. But colleagues, I invite you to can input on the program as presented.
Acting Chair, may I?
Yes, you can come in, Mr. Mare.
Thank you very much. All the issues that have been mentioned is very important. I just wanted to raise some very, very important matters that I believe cannot wait for the next term. The first one is, obviously, we're going to deal with the Bantuola Misa case versus the minister next week. The minister and the chief of joint ops, or the new chief of SANDF, has said that, and the chairperson has also referred to a meeting that must be set up in Pretoria for the minister to brief us on the Mozambique issue and the threats to our borders. So that has not been provided in here. Then it is also important that there are letters and other stuff and questions that we need a closed session that has not been provided for, and we have addressed it yesterday and also referred it to tonight. And then I have seen today in the Defence Web a article that is of a major concern to me, and it relates to Denel's incapacity to look after the C-130, the Oryx, the Rayfalk, the Samels, and even Gripens in terms of maintenance and spare parts. And this refers to letters, and it involves Major General Satete Molekane, the Chief Director Force the Development and Support, and also the Lieutenant General Buthelezi, as well as the new to be appointed Chief of the SA Air Force. Now, these are so important, and I mean, this is critical for our defense capability, and this is now in public domain. So I have sent a copy of this to the chairperson, and anybody can go onto Defence Web, and the heading is Denel is dragging the South African Air Force down. And it refers specifically to those strategic military equipment that we are using in the DRC, that we are needing for our air support, our Oryx helicopters, and even the Gripens. And I mean, if those equipments are paralyzed because of the situation of Denel, then our security is threatened very, very much. And I do believe that we will have to get an urgent briefing as soon as possible by Denel and the specific generals that is referred to in this article, that we can be up to date in terms of the developments and the threats and the realities, and not read it in articles. And I do believe, and I've sent this to the chairperson. I can send it to Peter to distribute this as well. I just believe that is of such a national importance, because if this is the case, then we can do nothing in Mozambique. Then we might be totally paralyzed in the DRC, and then further as well. So that is of national interest, that I do believe that we have to get a briefing on very, very, very quickly. And if that means another closed session, so be it. But this is in national interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Colleagues, any other? In the absence of other input.
Thank you.
Yes, you can come in, Mr. Mtamai.
Yeah, Chairperson, naginalo problem is serious ka the military veterans, especially ka oversight visit to Department of Military Veterans in DNV. Our people whom they were fighting with the apartheid government. Masolaro na asutlehang. Hona le bothata mo le mo department la military veterans ka masolaro. Shwa bontsi ba bone ba kula ha ba benefiting next as we speak. Re tlo ya le mo departmenting yele ya military veterans. Re bona gore batho bana ka bana le database ya bone gona le ba bangata ba ba fetsang go tlhokafala bo Masobuke o fetsa go tlhokafala ana le CEO mo database. Batho ba bangata ba ile gore ha ba yo mo database yele e tswentse re etele department re tlo ya leng. I understand the issue of Mozambique is genuine and is serious. Gore go ka extendiwa matsatsi wa etswang ne ke ntwe e right mar masola rona ona a tlhokafala a fela. Ke kopa Chairperson a re na ga snisise tadi gobane Mr. Qaba le no yana o mo ko ena Chairperson ya rona ha ne sempe gona le apartheid o go bona o se Chairperson ya rona o go bo sutlega yaka ne re sutlega kana go tseletsa apartheid a rena ga neng ka batho ba ne ba lwanela tuka re lona ga neng ka tulo ba e leng gore ga ba benefit dilo tsa bona ga ba di benefit ene ra tseba but we keep quiet. Ke a leboga.
Thank you, Mr. Mtamai. In essence, he's speaking to the issue of the Military Veterans Department, that there are serious issues and most of the veterans are very, very sick and are dying. So he's also suggesting that we need to treat that matter as urgently and visit the Department of Military Veterans. Colleagues, I think the committee secretaries would have noted all the issues that were raised. With regard to the Mozambique briefing and the closed sessions for the letters, we can also cluster them and make them one. I don't see us having enough time of space, so I think we will have to cluster some of these issues, particularly those briefings that need to be on in closed sessions, including the Denel and the general. So we can probably say the Pretoria closed sessions and make them a 2-day session, deal with the first two issues, the Mozambique briefing by the minister and the closed session regarding the letters as mentioned by Mr. Murray. And the second day, we can then take the generals and Denel. And then we can also plan another day or two to incorporate the military veterans visit, including the Salmons Town visit that has been postponed, that was supposed to happen on the 7th, colleagues. Is that in order?
Yes,
it is in order, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Chair, it is all in order for me. I just want you to maybe check with Chairperson Kaba, because I know that there was a discussion in the past in terms of that military veterans must only be dealt with by the Portfolio Committee of Defence and Military Veterans. But I've got no principal problem, dealing with military veterans. That's part of our responsibility. But I just want you to check with Chairperson on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues. We shall do so, and the committee secretaries will assist us. Can we then move to the next item?
Thank you, ma'am. The next item is the consideration of the strategic plan and annual performance plan of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence. Can you see the presentation, ma'am?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yes, ma'am. Similar to what we did on Tuesday, presenting the strategic plan and the annual performance plan of the PC. Here is the draft, the strategic plan for the Joint Standing Committee on Defence. As you would know there, ma'am, it just starts off there. Firstly, giving an overview of Parliament's strategic plan and just some of the main issues, and then the committee itself, its mandate, and those of the two departments, the entities, and just our customers and stakeholders. And then we go over to the committee services and output. And then lastly, we do look at the objectives and indicators. So, ma'am, I'm not going to go through everything. I think members are quite aware of of Parliament and its role and so forth. But it's just there saying that Parliament fulfills its mandate by passing legislation, overseeing executive action, and the facilitation of public involvement, corporate government, and then international participation. Okay. Just below that is the mission and then the vision. And then 1.3 is just the policy priorities of Parliament. And then just some of the values that Parliament has subscribed to, like openness, responsiveness, accountability, teamwork, professionalism, and integrity. As Anne has also indicated, the legal advisor, there is the mandate of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence. And later on, we just discussed the mandate of the Department of Defence, that of the Department of Military Veterans. And then maybe just pause slightly here, ma'am. And you see there, 2.4 is the customers and stakeholders. As we said, we service the following: the people of South Africa, the National Assembly and the NCOP, the Portfolio Committee, military veterans, the defence industry stakeholders, and then lastly, there are soldiers and civilians working in the Department of Defence and military veterans. Our stakeholders, they're all, ma'am, we're all quite aware of them, and there at the bottom are just included the organizations of the customers of the clients above, academic and research entities involved, and then the NGOs and the media. Ma'am, members would be aware of the situational analysis of the department and the two entities, and this is basically what the department and entities present to us on a quarterly and on an annual basis. So I'm not, with your permission, not going to say much about that. Here, next 2.52 is the Department of Military Veterans, Arms Corps, Castle Control Board, the Service Commission, and then the next one, there 3, is just about the committee services and outputs. And we're saying the way that we are processing our work is basically through a cycle of program committee activities involving meetings, oversight visits, study tours to provide information. The next section there may just refer to the various reports of the committee. Firstly, the quarterly and the annual reports of the NCACC, committee's annual report, minutes of the meetings, oversight reports, study tours, and then research information, and then procedural advice. There is just the services that the committee basically rendered is closely related to the 4 functions of the committee, namely lawmaking, oversight, public participation, and international corporate coordination. Then 3.4 is just the members and support staff of the committee, noting the designations as well as the political parties. And then on the right-hand side, just the support staff of the committee. More important for our purposes, as we populate our strategic plan for the rest of the MTF period, it is first the objectives and indicators of the committee. The first one there is the output is legislation. And as we're all aware, we, as the Joint Standing Committee, we don't process legislation that is given over to portfolio committees and the select committees. Next, ma'am, we're just looking there at the oversight functions. And I think these were determined when we had our strategic planning session earlier this year in Pretoria. The first one there that we have to do within our ambit is the number of letters from the president. And there we just indicate, you know, through the years, what was the baseline. And last year there was a target of 4, and that was met with 5. And then further on, we said going forward, you know, the number of letters will determine, you know, by those submitted by the presidency. And then also in terms of the joint rules, we need to conduct a strategic overview in the midterm life of the committee, and that is scheduled for 2022. Next one is the interim report of implementation of recommendations. And this is conducted in the last year of the MTFF, and then ma'am can see it is located there in 2024. Ma'am, remember we also said that we need to sort of have a deep dive into certain issues. And what we also need to do in terms of the mandate of the committee, in terms of the joint rules, is that we need to conduct, you know, civil military relations dipstick, similar to the CMR colloquium that we have. And then we're just saying there around 2023, we need to conduct the civil military relations dipstick. And then with regards to the issues that we said that we're going to have a deep dive into, you know, issues and then really going to investigate it, issues that bother us and we don't always get the right kind of information, is firstly there, ma'am, is the succession planning interrogation. And that is planned for later this year. And then gender parity, something we mentioned earlier as well. We said that the year after that, we can then conduct a gender parity investigation. Also something that has been mentioned at both the Lekgotla that we have with the Defence Force, is the issue of the armaments investigation, because there are concerns, you know, that this is not being done properly. You know, we don't have enough information, and maybe we should have a deep dive into the armaments of the Defence Force. And we're saying that maybe the year after that, 2023, we can conduct it. And then something that is always programmed is the annual reports of the NCACC, and then next is the quarterly reports. With regards to the military veterans, something that Mr. Mosomai mentioned is that we said that we need to conduct, you know, an oversight visit to the headquarters of the Department of Military Veterans, as well as some of the provincial offices. And then I can see that each of those following years, we indicated we should conduct that kind of oversight, a visit to those headquarters and the provincial offices. And then also something that we said we need to do, like similar to a deep dive, is if there are specific issues that we want to investigate properly, like for instance the database, we should then just list it there. Ma'am, with regards to the involvement of the public, it will depend on the deep dive issues that I referred to earlier. And then lastly, ma'am, and it's just 4.4, and that relates to international cooperation. And here what we're saying, we suggest that later this year, maybe the end of the year, we should conduct an oversight visit, you know, to the DRC where our troops are being deployed. The next year, the suggestion is there that we do an oversight or a study tour, the USA, the Vietnam, and Algeria, with regards to how they treat their military veterans. Year after that, suggestion was made that we should actually go to countries, you know, that have a very strong or efficient force structure and force design, and go and benchmark there. After that, remember, there's also some issues raised with regards to arms control regime, especially as it relates to the NCACC, and the suggestion is that in then 2023-24, we should then go and visit or do a study tour on that. And the last one there is just for with regards to reserve, that we should maybe go to Norway, UK, and investigate how they then deal with their reserve. Then with regards to Arms Corps and Castle, what we're saying that if we then go to these countries above, we should also go or consider, visiting their defense-related industries and see how they are doing. Similar with regards to the Castle Control Board, we said that if we go there, we should look how they manage their defense endowment properties, for the preservation by the militaries. So, ma'am, that is the strategic plan of the joint, which I do believe we need to consider and adopt, because this will basically be our planning platform going forward, the rest of the MTF. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I think for me, the draft is well and properly put. Colleagues, here's the draft plan for the joint strategic plan. Can we make an input and then and be able to proceed and adopt the plan?
Chairperson, if I can make just a comment or a quick question.
Quickly, Mr. Mare, I'm sure you are all aware that we are past 9 p.m. We are scheduled until 9 p.m. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure from Peter, this is very much, it's correlating with the strategic plan and the annual performance plan, or the strategic plan that we have approved yesterday of the portfolio committee, because it's very, very similar things. And, if that is the case, then, then as we have supported it yesterday, we support it today as well.
Thank you so much. Any mover and seconder, colleagues?
Chair.
Yes, it is Ms. Biglas.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair,
Yes.
I second. I just maybe want to raise something that it will be interesting to get a report on the previous study tours, so that we can see what was the impact of those study tours and measure the impact thereof. Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and noted. Any seconder, colleagues?
I second, Chair.
Thank you so much. Our strategic plan has been adopted. Colleagues, there was another item regarding the minutes. I'm not sure, Peter, if we still have time for that. I know we're scheduled until 9 p.m. and quite honestly, we from the house, we are exhausted now. So I'm suggesting that probably we should attend the meeting and deal with the minutes in the next meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Agreed.
I support.
Support. Chair, we are tired.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Let me take this opportunity and thank and appreciate everyone who has attended the meeting and participated, and also appreciate our support staff who continuously do a sterling job in really making sure that our committee is well led. Thank you so much, colleagues. The meeting stands adjourned.
Chairperson, just thank you to you who stood in. Thank you very much, much appreciated. And then some bad news for Ms. Beekers. Not even in my time in the previous parliament, we were on a study tour, so I don't think you will find anything of a study tour of this portfolio.
I'm also looking forward to the study tours. This COVID-19 it's really costing us a lot. We are looking forward before our term ends. We must go to Vietnam.
America.
Agree, Chair.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good night,
agree.
colleagues. Meeting adjourned.
Bye-bye.